Alcatraz has always been known as one of the most feared prisons in the United States. It stood on a lonely island in the middle of San Francisco Bay, surrounded by freezing, choppy waters and powerful currents that made escaping nearly impossible. Most people imagine it only as a place where the most dangerous criminals were locked away forever. But what if that was not the whole story? What if Alcatraz was hiding something far darker, something that went beyond its role as a prison? Deep under its stone walls and metal bars, there might have been a secret buried for decades. This secret could be connected to hidden missions, government experiments, and shadowy operations that no one was ever meant to discover. The strange story began on what appeared to be an ordinary day. Tourists wandered the prison grounds, snapping photos, stepping inside old cells, and listening to guides share tales of notorious inmates. The wind blowing over the bay was icy and restless, just as it had been for generations. On the surface, nothing seemed unusual. But far away from the eyes of the visitors, deep inside the prison structure, something unexpected was about to happen. A new museum expansion was underway, and construction crews had started knocking through old walls and exploring long-sealed sections of the building to create space for new displays. Nobody thought they would find anything out of the ordinary, until one worker noticed something strange. There was a wall that did not match the original blueprints of the prison. At first, they assumed it might be an old maintenance shaft or an unused sewage tunnel. But the bricks were different from the ones used when the federal prison was built in the 1930s, and the cement was of another kind as well. When a few loose stones were removed, they uncovered a narrow opening. Inside was a pitch-black tunnel that stretched into the unknown. There were no records, maps, or construction notes about this passage. Nothing at all. The most detailed prison files made no mention of it. The air inside was freezing and heavy, as though it had been undisturbed for many years. There was no light, no movement, no sound, just an eerie silence that had been sealed away for what seemed like forever. The discovery was quickly reported, and the FBI moved in. Agents arrived, shut down the area, and began an intense investigation. From the start, they knew this tunnel was no accident. The walls were reinforced with steel brackets, and the passageway had sharp turns and narrow bends, features that seemed designed to confuse or hide someone's movement. Whoever built it had clearly wanted it to stay hidden. The tunnel ended at a heavy iron door, sealed so tightly that its hinges were buried in stone. Even though it was rusted, it was still strong. Agents standing in front of it felt a strange unease, as if they were about to see something they were not supposed to find. When the door was finally forced open, it revealed a small chamber unlike anything else in Alcatraz. The walls were not made of the same material as the prison, and the stale air seemed to hold on to an old, forgotten memory. Experts quickly noticed that the steel in the walls had markings dating back to the 1920s, years before the prison officially became a federal penitentiary. This meant the tunnel and chamber might have been built before 1934. But for what reason? And who built it? No escape attempt in Alcatraz's history had ever mentioned such a tunnel. Not even the famous 1962 escape by Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers. Prisoners who spent decades there never spoke of it. It was as if it had been completely erased from history. Inside the chamber, the walls were covered with stone and packed mud, perhaps to block sound from escaping. Whoever constructed it had skill and access to resources not easily found on an isolated prison island. This was not the work of a single prisoner with stolen tools. It had been carefully planned, likely by a team. From its location, the chamber could have been used to secretly watch naval bases, shipping routes, and movements in the city. If it really had been built before the prison opened, it might have been part of an early military or intelligence operation. Old government records hinted at private building work on Alcatraz during the 1920s, but the references were vague and unexplained. Some investigators began to think the tunnel was never meant for escape at all. Maybe it was for hiding people, storing sensitive materials, or protecting dangerous objects. The path was carefully designed, the construction precise, and the walls tightly sealed. Whoever built it had a clear purpose, and they knew exactly what they were doing. The FBI found no signs that anyone had been inside for decades. There were no footprints, fingerprints, or disturbed dust. It was like the room had been frozen in time. Still, the air carried an unsettling feeling, as if someone, or something, was watching. In the dim light, the agents noticed old wooden boxes stacked in the chamber, their surfaces covered in dust and their edges crumbling with age. Inside the boxes were stacks of faded documents, maps of San Francisco Bay, and what appeared to be an old abandoned radio communication system. It wasn't something from modern times, but it also didn't look like it belonged to the 1930s era of the prison. In one corner of the chamber, 3 cots were neatly arranged, each carefully set up as if they had been used by someone who lived there for a period of time. The blankets were folded with precision, and the beds were positioned with care, suggesting this was not a place hastily thrown together. It seemed to have been occupied for a significant period, perhaps weeks, or even months. On the wall, several clocks hung motionless, their hands stuck at exactly 2:17 a.m., frozen under a thick layer of dust. The strange detail raised unsettling questions. Why that specific time? Was it meant as a signal? Or was it nothing more than coincidence? One FBI agent, in a classified report, wrote that he believed the room had been prepared with intention. He said it felt like its occupants had been waiting for someone, and that haunting thought refused to leave the minds of those who had stepped inside. Who were they waiting for? And why go to such lengths to create such a hidden space, only to seal it up and abandon it? As the investigation deepened, some theories began to focus on Cold War activities. The mid-20th century had been the perfect time for secret government operations, and Alcatraz was an ideal location. Isolated from the public, surrounded by cold waters, and already functioning as a high-security prison, it would have been the perfect cover for something more covert. Perhaps this chamber was once a command center for gathering intelligence, or maybe it had served as a temporary base for agents traveling along the West Coast. Then the forensic team made a startling find: encryption devices from the 1960s, eerily similar to those used by the CIA. This discovery hinted that the chamber might have been part of a secret communications hub during the Cold War. If that was true, it raised even more questions. Why were no records ever found about its existence? Why leave the tools behind? And most importantly, who had operated them? Some investigators began to suspect that certain prisoners might have unknowingly played a role in building or maintaining the tunnel. Others believed that the government had taken advantage of the prison's isolation to store classified materials or protect valuable intelligence. Yet the question remained: who had ultimate control over this hidden facility? Was it the United States government, the military, or an even more secret organization working outside official channels? Old records eventually uncovered something unexpected: a reference to a classified operation known as Project Warden Shadow. This little-known program, buried deep within decades-old government files, hinted at a covert partnership between the Department of Justice and the CIA. Its mission appeared to go beyond simply controlling dangerous prisoners. It also used the prison as a front for intelligence work. This revelation raised even more possibilities. Could the tunnel have been part of this program? Was it designed to support spy missions, hide agents, or store sensitive equipment? As researchers dug deeper, Project Warden Shadow became the focus of growing speculation. The documents suggested that Alcatraz had been more than just a prison. It might have served as a testing ground for operations that had nothing to do with criminal justice. The questions multiplied. Were secret experiments carried out here? Was the chamber used to host classified meetings or interrogations? And if so, who were the targets? The hidden tunnel beneath Alcatraz shattered the public's long-standing image of the island. It revealed a side of history that had been carefully concealed, perhaps intentionally, for generations. Whatever the ultimate truth might be, one fact became undeniable: Alcatraz was not just a place where criminals were locked away. It was a place where secrets lived. Alcatraz was never just a prison for criminals. It was also a place filled with secrets, shadows, and mysteries that have never been fully uncovered. Even years after the discovery of the hidden tunnel, researchers are still trying to piece together the truth. Who built it? Who lived in the chamber? What information passed through those encrypted messages? And most importantly, how much of this story was deliberately buried? Some people believe the answers remain locked away in government archives. Others think the truth will never be revealed because it's too dangerous. The discovery of the tunnel changed everything. It proved that history is not always what it seems. Behind the tourist brochures, the guided tours, and the famous legends of daring escapes, there could be something far deeper hidden beneath Alcatraz, something that could completely change how we see the past. For decades, the public believed Alcatraz was simply a high-security prison built to hold the nation's most dangerous criminals on an isolated island. But over the years, shocking new information has surfaced that paints a far more unsettling picture. Recently declassified government documents suggest that the prison may have played a role in secret experiments and hidden operations during some of the most tense years in American history. Some of these files reveal that certain inmates at Alcatraz were subjected to psychological tests and extreme stress without their knowledge. These experiments may have been designed to study mental resilience, break down resistance, and measure how prisoners reacted to pressure. Inmates suspected of ties to organized crime were closely observed, with officials quietly collecting information that could be used to dismantle criminal networks. But the most disturbing part is not just what was done, it's where it happened. Alcatraz wasn't chosen for its isolation alone. Its position in San Francisco Bay placed it near key naval routes and military lines, making it a location of strategic importance. Close enough to observe important activity, but far enough from the public eye, the island offered the perfect cover for government operations. Some theories go further, suggesting that many prisoners had no idea they might have been part of something bigger, a hidden plan involving multiple government agencies. According to some accounts, the FBI and other groups may have built a secret tunnel beneath the prison. This tunnel was likely not intended for escapes or moving inmates. Instead, it could have been designed for emergencies, national security operations, or a covert program known as Project Warden Shadow. If this tunnel was indeed part of Project Warden Shadow, its secrecy would make sense. It might have been used to move important individuals on or off the island without attracting attention. It also raises the possibility that the tunnel was never meant to be found by anyone outside those operations. The mystery deepens when looking at one of Alcatraz's most famous moments, the 1962 escape of Frank Morris and brothers Clarence and John Anglin. The official story claims they used handmade tools to dig through their cell walls, slip through utility corridors, and built a raft from raincoats to cross the cold, dangerous waters of San Francisco Bay. But if there was another hidden passage on the island, one known only to a select few, could their escape have been connected to something much larger than anyone realized? But what if the famous 1962 Alcatraz escape didn't happen the way we've always been told? What if Frank Morris and the Anglin brothers didn't risk their lives on a dangerous raft at all? New evidence suggests their escape might not have been as reckless or random as it seemed. It's possible they had access to a secret route, one so well hidden that even most guards didn't know it existed. Over the years, retired guards from the 1950s and 60s have shared strange memories. Some spoke of odd noises echoing from beneath the prison floor during the quiet night shifts. A few prisoners even complained of hearing unusual sounds that didn't match the normal routines of the prison. One guard recalled being warned by a superior never to ask questions about what was under Laundry Block C. That warning stayed with him for decades, especially after new discoveries began to emerge. What could have been hidden beneath that building? Was there a network of secret rooms, strange machinery, or evidence of classified experiments? If Project Warden Shadow was real, it would explain why a tunnel like this was kept secret for so long. The structure's complexity suggests it wasn't built just for emergencies. Its design and location make it possible that it was intended for covert intelligence work, perhaps even linked to Cold War missions. Alcatraz's isolation made it perfect for secret operations, close enough to major naval routes to be useful, yet far enough from the public to remain invisible. The tunnel raises more questions than answers. Was it built all at once for a specific mission, or slowly expanded over years to serve different purposes? Was it an escape route, a hidden control room, or something even stranger? Whatever the truth, its existence adds a new layer to the escape story. Could Morris and the Anglin brothers have known about this passage? Did they stumble on it by chance, Or had they been tipped off by someone with inside knowledge? Did they keep it secret from the fourth man in their plan, Alan West, because they didn't trust him or feared he couldn't keep it hidden? West was known for being unpredictable, and maybe they felt leaving him out was the safest choice. After the escape, Morris and the Anglins were never found. Decades later, a tunnel was discovered under the rocky cliffs of the island. Technical experts found that it extended from the prison all the way beneath the shoreline, entirely out of sight from the Coast Guard. If this passage had been used, it would have spared them from the deadly cold waters and strong currents of the bay, conditions that made a raft escape almost suicidal. This new possibility casts the 2013 letter, allegedly written by John Anglin, in a different light. The letter said, "We made it that night, but barely." For years, people assumed he meant they barely survived crossing the bay. But maybe he meant something else. Maybe he was talking about surviving the tunnel itself. Could this have been more than an escape? Could Morris and the Anglins have been part of a secret test, placed in the prison to see how an escape could be achieved? Was this part of a psychological study to measure how people react under extreme stress, or a way to test the prison's weaknesses for future covert operations? Some believe the entire event might have been orchestrated as part of a larger hidden plan. The mystery deepened when a human skeleton was found inside the tunnel. Next to the bones were a ruined purse, several 1961 coins, old maps, and documents badly damaged by water. The coins were surprisingly clean, as if they had been carefully preserved, not simply lost. These items could have been intended for use after an escape, to start a new life in hiding. But the skeleton didn't match the identity of any known escapee, which made the discovery even stranger. Was this an unknown fourth participant? An accomplice? A secret operative who never made it out? Or was it someone entirely unrelated, whose presence in the tunnel has its own story, one still buried in the shadows? On the walls near the skeleton, investigators found chilling scratch marks. Among them, a message had been carved into the stone. "They left me here." Those words gave the entire discovery a far more haunting weight. Was this person abandoned during an escape attempt? Were they once part of a carefully planned operation, only to be left behind when things went wrong? The message spoke of fear, betrayal, and unbearable suffering, and it made the story of Alcatraz's hidden tunnel even darker. The items found with the body, the purse, the maps, the coins, sparked more questions. Were these meant for a planned getaway? Were they deliberately planted to be found later? Or were they part of a larger, more complex escape plan involving multiple people, possibly even people outside the prison walls? Some have gone so far as to wonder if the person who died in that tunnel was connected to the CIA or another branch of the intelligence community. Could a spy have been hiding beneath Alcatraz? Was this individual helping Morris and the Anglins escape, only to become trapped in the process? Even more unsettling are the whispers that Frank Morris himself may have been a spy. According to this theory, his imprisonment wasn't simply for criminal activity. It was because he knew something the government wanted to keep secret, or because he had once worked in intelligence. If that's true, then his sentence at Alcatraz and his so-called escape might have been part of a covert mission all along. Perhaps a test to see if someone could survive, escape, and disappear under extreme conditions. After the skeleton was found, an old FBI report from 1995 came to light. It claimed that the tunnel under Alcatraz had been used for multiple purposes over the years, some of which are still not fully understood. That revelation added another layer of confusion about what the island was truly used for. Was it a prison, a laboratory, a spy base, or a Cold War testing ground? Newly surfaced documents suggest that during the Cold War, Alcatraz may have hosted classified research projects on prisoners, stress tests, extreme isolation, and psychological experiments. Equipment was hidden throughout the prison to secretly monitor inmates without their knowledge. If this is true, it suggests something much bigger than a simple prison break. Was the 1962 escape really an act of desperation, or was it a staged experiment to observe how far the men could get before being captured? Or perhaps the government helped them escape as part of an intelligence operation. Some theorists believe that Morris and the Anglins may have been working for the government all along. Even the money they were believed to have stolen could have been government funds meant to finance covert missions, not a new life on the run. If that's the case, their escape wasn't just about breaking out of prison. It was one step in a much larger and hidden plan. To this day, the U.S. Marshals Service continues to search for the escapees, known in official records as SKPs, subjects known to be at large. They've even released updated age progression images showing what the men might look like now, assuming they're still alive. But no confirmed trace of them has ever been found. With every new clue, the image of Alcatraz changes. It's no longer simply the story of an impenetrable prison and the criminals it held. The mounting evidence suggests that the island may have been a hub for classified operations, experiments, intelligence work, and secret escape plans, all hidden beneath the surface of history.